Well, back in 2019, at the last EU parliamentary election, environmental issues were ranked as being a top priority for voters. But 5 years on, it's a slightly different story. Analysts and opinion polls say that other issues have surpassed the climate, notably the economy, unemployment and security. This said, Green parties are almost certainly going to play a key role in helping to form majorities as kingmakers after the elections. Well, let's get some more analysis now from François Gemmene at HEC, who's also the chairman of the FNH Scientific Council. Professor, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Is the environment being given adequate attention in these European elections, in your opinion?
Well, clearly, I think that one can have the impression indeed that this is not a top priority, yet my feeling is that it has become a key polarizing concern, and that the reason why the environment appears as a little bit absent from the campaign is that I'm afraid it conveys a lot of bad news. And clearly the Green Deal, which appeared like a key political project for the EU 5 years ago, now seems to be perceived as a constraint. And I believe this is the reason why it seems that the ecology doesn't represent a key concern for the people, because I think that they don't see any solution in sight. And I think it is very important that the Commission managed to do a better job in marketing the Green Deal. And the future of the Green Deal, make no mistake, the future of the Green Deal lies at the very core of this election.
Yeah, and the future of the Green Deal is of great importance to the future generations. And there's a representative of future generations there with you there on the screen. He's snuck into the interview as well. I hope he doesn't mind being on live television. Let me just ask you which demographic you think considers environmental issues to be the top priority. Are we talking here, is this as simple as being older, younger? What would you say is the split?
As a matter of fact, when we look at the polls, roughly 80% of the Europeans declare themselves as very concerned or anxious about the state of the climate or the state of biodiversity. And clearly, we do not see a so-called climate generation. As a matter of fact, the preoccupation for the environment is roughly equally shared amongst all age classes, but also amongst social classes, amongst voters of the right and voters of the left. So clearly, this is a very shared concern amongst Europeans. But I think that the difficulty is that we believe that because we had some form of consensus on recognizing the problem, that we would naturally agree on the solutions. And the problem now that we're coming to the stage of solutions and of actual measures is that we don't agree anymore on these solutions. Quite on the contrary, this has become a very divisive issue in the campaign.
Yeah, it's divisive. Is it as simple to say that it's just a left-right issue? That almost seems a bit too simplistic, doesn't it?
That's a bit too simplistic. Obviously, there are differences between the left and the right, but I think this is also a key difference between populism, nationalism, and doing what is right. And I think that we should be really aware that those who are probably the most concerned about the future of the Green Deal will not be voting in this weekend's election. Those who are most concerned about the future of the Green Deal are in Bangladesh, in India, or in Mexico, and suffering directly from the consequences of climate change.
Now, if Europe can set a good example to the rest of the world and perhaps make environmental issues a really key issue, there's real scope, isn't there, for action beyond Europe, if indeed Europe can blaze that trail?
Absolutely. And I think it's not just about setting an example for the rest of the world. It's also about seizing an opportunity for Europe's economy and hence its political model. Very clearly, the strength of Europe is the size of its internal market. And it is clear that Europe should use this to its advantage and to make sure that a lot of the policies that are aimed at decarbonizing the EU economy can also be applied to the rest of the world. This is a sense of the carbon tax that will be implemented at the borders of the EU from 2026 onwards.
Yeah, I mean, you hear people criticizing Europe for overreach, and people who are Eurosceptic in a lot of countries say, Europe's ambitions don't match their own necessarily. But were they to get the green elements of their policy absolutely right and make Europe a green continent where, the rest of the world can look at with a degree of admiration and envy, I mean, that would be a real coup, wouldn't it, for the bloc?
Clearly, and I think it's clearly in the interest of Europe as well, and in the interest of European industries as well. I think what is important for this to happen is that we send very clear signals to investors and industries. And I think any backtracking, any flip-flopping on the Green Deal would send a signal of uncertainty, of confusion to the investors, and that signal could derail the transition, which is the reason why it is really important to keep a steady cap when it comes to the ecological transition for the industries, for the investors.
And do you think the Green Deal is safe in the event that right-wing parties come out on top? I mean, what's going to happen? What's your forecast there?
Really, no. There is a huge risk if there is a rise of populist and nationalist parties. They've made it very clear that they didn't like the Green Deal, that they would try to get rid of the Green Deal. So it is absolutely clear that the Green Deal is a serious risk in this election. Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed to you, and thank you to your special guest there, who's had a cameo appearance in today's news bulletin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much indeed, Professor François Gemmene. Thank you very much indeed to you. It turns out